All right, I think that's all for housekeeping. Once again, thank you all so much for coming to tonight's performance, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over now to Conrad to introduce the show.
Thank you. My name's Conrad Keenan. I'm director of the Playground Ensemble. And how many of you came here from Denver, by the way? Nice, nice. Where are you when we play in Denver? We don't have these kind of crowds there. I know. Oh, that's right. I got people from Nebraska and everything. Yeah, this must be special. I think is what's going on. You know, the first thing that I want to actually do is thank Ben, because this isn't even possible without Ben letting us be in here. So. If you are unfamiliar with Playground Ensemble, you can go to playgroundensemble.org and learn a lot more about us. We decided not to print programs like we normally would in a concert hall program, but if you go right there, you can find program notes about all of the components. We have them compose, and so we are starting a new branch of our Young Composers Playground, which is our youth composition program, where we do musical postcards, where a young person composes and then sends it to somebody in another city that has a similar program, and they write pieces back and forth. And so this is one of our musical postcards. This young lady wrote a piece called, well, you'll see, Apollo 11, and it just seemed to fit really well with the theme, and so we thought that we would open tonight's show with it. So I hope you enjoy everything. Thanks for being here.
Hello, my name is Aubrey McFadden. I am 10 years old. I live in Aurora, Colorado, and I go to Sagebrush Elementary School. I'm a 4th grader there, and my composition piece is about the first mankind to successfully land on the moon, which is Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin with the Apollo 11 mission.
El jinete se acercaba, tocando el tambor del llano. Por el olivar venían, ronce sueño, los gitanos. Las cabezas levantadas y los ojos entornados.
from the children of planet Earth.
تحياتنا للأصدقاء في النجوم يا ليت يجمعنا السماء.
Shalom. The individual tone is not music until it is directly connected with other tones.
ขอส่งมิตรจิตมาถึงท่านทุกคน
Tonal relations are not operative until tones and tonal combinations are used.
And tonal relations are not operative until tones and tonal combinations are in motion.
Music arises from the combined effect of these two tones. The motion from one tone to another is the bridging of a gap in space. Thus, the interval formed by the connection of two tones is the basic unit of musical construction.
there, Monica, as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right to left and give everybody's names, and then we're going to clap for everybody, and then we'll do some Q&A, right? So clear over there on the edge is composer Nathan Hall, who did, is it Unquiet Sun? Yeah? Megan Bunis. Richard Von Forrester is conducting us this evening. Sonia Yeager-Meeks. Jake Saunders. Rachel Hargroder. Sarah Whitner. Whitner? Whitner? I renamed you. Monica Bolas. Colin from Colorado Springs. He had such a long drive, I just have to point that out. And then I'm Conrad Keene, we're Playground Ensemble. Colin's last name is McAllister, by the way. So one of the things, I thought we'd do some Q&A, but one of the things that I wanted to do is, in the way that we set up this format of the show, there was no time to recognize composers for the pieces they had written. And so after Apollo 11 by our young composer, the very first piece you heard was by Monica. And then the piece after that was by Nathan. And then the Satellites piece was by Anne Gosfeld, and she's a British composer living in New York. And then the big chamber work was by George Crumb, and he's very famous, but not here this evening. And then I wrote the very last piece. And normally there would be more of a relationship between that person wrote that, right, when you saw it. So I just wanted to make sure we pointed that out. And then, I don't know, Q&A always goes really well when somebody is brave enough to be first.
Let me also ask, how many of you did read the program notes online? Just a few of you. Yeah, let's get that back up. But I wonder if we could start first by having each composer just talk a little bit about what inspired their piece.
Hi, so I'm Monica Bowles. I composed the piece Collision, and I actually it was the piece used data generated by two black holes colliding, actually, to be able to create the electronic sounds. And then I also built kind of this animated score that Sarah and Jake were following, and also the pulsing colors that you saw. All of that was, it was from two black holes, the gravity waves being formed by two black holes colliding. So the that data was then generating the visuals and the audio, and then Sarah and Jake were playing to that. And this was actually my first time ever composing notated composition for anybody. And also my first time ever really working with string instruments, in the sense of I learned all this new terminology for how to get different kinds of sounds out of instrumentation. And so I really want to thank Sarah and Jake both for kind of helping me through that, and also Nathan, because he was amazing. I was like, I want this sound, I want it to move from this sound to this sound, and he's like, oh yeah, here, you could like write it like this. I was like, oh, that's cool. So, but yeah, so I feel really blessed to be able to kind of hang out and be a part of this.
I will also say it was my first time playing to a moving score. We've done graphic scores, and I play off sheet music all the time, but this was the first time I've ever played off of a video in front of me, which just meant a lot of memorizing, because you can't really write notes in a score like that. So you kind of just have to know what's coming up and memorize it. So, Nathan.
So I wrote the piece Unquiet Sun, and I took footage from NASA of what they have of the surface of the sun, and I made that video. Then I also made the electronic sound collage in surround sound. I used some sounds that already existed from space, like altered sounds of the sun itself pulsating, but I was really interested in this relatively new research of helioseismology, which I recently learned about, that there are these patterns that happen inside and on the surface of the sun that we can't really see unless we think about it like the Earth has seismology, like internal waves of things moving around. And they actually pulse and move in sort of a musical relationship to each other. So I'm trying to like understand that sonically and making things swirl around in parallel waves and things. So it's a first attempt at that kind of science narration in sound and visual.
And Conrad.
A lot of the content for my piece came from the golden record that's on the Voyager craft. The audio samples of all the greetings. So on the golden record, there's instructions on how alien life forms could find it and figure out how to play it. And if they played it, there's a bunch of music, which those very low drones were just music stretched way, way out and pitched down. And then there's greetings in 55 languages, and so I had them being randomly generated at various points in the room. And then there's so much great stuff on there. There's a pulsar map where if alien life forms should first of all find Voyager, and then figure out what the information is on there, using this pulsar map, they should be able to find Earth. And so that little middle section, I used the data from the pulsars to form this kind of, well, we called it the Pulsar Dance Party. And I was also reading a composition book by Paul Hindemith, and he just happened to be talking about how like there is one tone that is the sun and all these other tones are planets. So I decided to use that quote. And then the filmmaker I collaborated with, she is department chair, I don't know if it's film, it's, you know how they have those great digital media, something importance, and she's department chair there. We've collaborated before, so we were talking about film, what this was going to be like, and we started talking about Kepler's Harmonica Mundi, the harmony of the planets or whatever. He believed that the planets in their orbits produce sound. And so there was a lot of stuff, moving things that I used, approximated planetary rates to try and determine, and pitches and all of that kind of stuff too. And that's where a lot of the visuals came from as well. Was either, there's a bunch of video on the golden record as well, so there was some content there, and then just a lot of the Kepler. He had a bunch of really fantastic diagrams, sacred geometry kind of stuff. And so that's where most of that came from.
So now questions? Yeah, Nick, I know you.
So this is actually less of a question and more of a compliment, especially for the first two pieces. I walked into this, I am not a huge music buff, but I am a big astronomy buff. And when I came in, and I read none of the intros to these pieces, and immediately from the first piece, I knew exactly what you were trying to portray with the gravitational waves emitted from the two falling black holes, because I knew exactly when that merger happened and exactly how they detected it, and that came through really well. And on the second piece, I could immediately, it felt like a trip through the Corona, which was really good in that respect as well. I really appreciate that kind of rendition of the, you know, the complexity and the layers of the sun and what we're discovering about those interactions as time goes on. And I felt like those two pieces really portrayed that in a way that someone without a scientific or a musical background could come and appreciate in a way that I just want to share that. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Do you want to know how long we were here yesterday? We were here from like 4:30 to 10:30. 10:30, 11.
And then we did like two field trips to the dome, and you guys spent some more extra time just running.
There was a
tech
lot
and
of trips
stuff.
up
Yeah.
here.
So how many of you have done video or music in a space like this before?
First time.
Except for Monica.
Yeah.
Not video though. This is my first. I usually work with visual artists, And so this is my first attempt at doing the visuals myself for this space.
How did you do your visuals? Because a lot of people use a program called After Effects, which is what I used.
I used a program called Max MSP, which and I actually did a lot of programming and learning about writing code for creating stuff. It was a journey.
Over there, Richard.
This light's in my eye. On the video from NASA, and you showed that it was the surface of the sun, and you got it from NASA. I wondered if, after you composed that, if NASA heard any of what you did, and if they had any reaction at all.
I'm probably not important enough for NASA right now, but but if I know anyone there, I'll shoot it along, and if I could get some.
Know somebody.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we do.
We can
It could be on NASA's social media. Yeah, but it would be. I mean, I'm all about collaboration, so I think if there's a way that one field can inform the other, and both can learn something and feel elevated and inspired, then I'm all for that. So I'll send it along.
One thing I didn't know until we started working on this project is, I knew that there was a very specialized video format you had to have to make it work on this dome, but you can just Google 360 dome video, and there's YouTube channels of amazing content. It's just all around. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that NASA has made available for sure. It seems to be more space than anything else too, I think, because that's probably what these venues do the most. Ben is who was like, yeah, you should go here and look at this. There's lots.
Are there any other questions? Yeah, one over here.
Yeah.
What were some of the more technically difficult parts of this concert? Normally I would think it was everything in the crumb, but just about every piece seemed to...
You mean in terms of music-wise,
yeah.
or in terms of just tech, actual
Yeah,
tech?
no, not technology technical, musically technical.
Musically challenging.
I really felt like musically it came together pretty quickly in this space. Like we said earlier, none of us had ever performed in a space like this, so we didn't really know what to expect with the acoustic instruments, but it was actually a lot easier to put together with the acoustic instruments. But I know we did run into a lot of stuff with the tech, like the video with the audio and stuff.
Yeah, they were so intertwined, it was almost impossible to
It's
separate.
probably good that we didn't have any really huge musical challenges, because everything else was such a challenge. But I will say, normally performing in such a dead space, we would call this very dead, is a challenge, but I really liked it for the crumb because you can hear all the tiny little things that the performers are doing, or when Megan whispers. So I really appreciated, show me your rocks. Did you guys know she was playing rocks, that you were at a rock concert?
From Nathan's birthday.
I did it.
No, the first strike scared me on that one.
Did it?
I had sort of a electronic music challenge because I tested things out twice here, and in a headphone mix for a piece, it's a very different experience than obviously surround sound mix. So I had maybe twice the amount of sounds and musical material, and I actually really had to make the minimalist version of my music for this space, because you really just needed one or two ideas happening at one time. Otherwise it was just all over the place. So that really surprised me. And then to go back to the drawing board, come back here, test it out. There's no other way to really get a good sense of what it will be unless it's in physical space.
The place where I compose is actually my wife's in my bedroom, and so one of our challenges was that I have this fake 5.1 surround system drug all over our bedroom right now with cables all over the place.
I'd just like to say that experiencing it in our room and hearing it from different corners of our room, watching it on a flat wall. And they come alive in here. It was just beautiful. I loved it. I thought it was really just awesome.
Yeah, you got to see it all the way through every stage.
Yeah.
Including, why do I hear
Different
humming?
loud noises.
Yeah.
Some
Speakers
stuff that I was
made
like,
noise.
he's just screaming.
How? I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, go for it. There you go. Without having read the program, how did this project evolve? Was it a playground idea, or was it? How did this? Like, it's this interesting merging of two ideas. Yeah. Actually, a long time ago, we had a meeting with another group called Sphere, which is another group that I play in. It's a fantastic chamber orchestra, and they do a whole bunch of collaborations and outreach, and they play music from traditional classical to pop music. And so we were originally having a conversation with them about some sort of space collaboration, and that didn't come to fruition, so we just, Playground decided to do our own space concert. And, you know, one of the things we try really hard to do is to have events that are not just your typical chamber concert, and we try to keep them interesting and engaging, so that we can bring contemporary music to people from all different backgrounds. And so we thought, you know, there's a lot of orchestras who play whole planets, and they have space concerts, and it's kind of, I mean, I don't want to talk down about those concerts because there's importance about them, but they're kind of tokenized, you know, it's just kind of predictable, I guess.
Really cutting edge idea.
So, yeah, so we were like, well, if we're going to do a space program, or we're just going to call it the space program, like, how are we going to make it special? How are we going to make it ours? And so we were like, well, let's be in a planetarium. Like, let's have the stars above us and do it that way. So.
And Monica, then, she was the first person we approached about.
Yeah, well, Nathan and Monica had known you'd met before, right?
Yeah, an installation of mine.
Yeah, I just randomly ran into Nathan's. It was like underneath the by the light rail station, and I was waiting at the light rail station, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go in this little room here. And I was like, this is beautiful, and I was just like really impressed by this installation that Nathan had. And then he was there, and I was like, hey, if you ever want to come play in a dome, let me know.
And here we are.
Yeah. There were emails and coffees after that.
Yeah. Well, thank you all for being here so much. This is really fun to play with you. And you're awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks,
I'm like way more like